Audiobook Psychological Poisoning. Part 1. Written and voiced by Reinhard. At the outset, it's worth asking, why is it important to study manipulative and destructive techniques, including psychological violence? First and foremost, it's crucial to understand how these mechanisms operate and how destructive communication functions. This knowledge allows individuals to recognize such behaviors, maintain their resilience, and effectively resist them. At the very least, it equips one to disengage from toxic interactions. Furthermore, if you inadvertently employ these manipulative techniques, gaining awareness provides the opportunity to stop using them, thereby purifying your communication of toxic practices. Additionally, if the need arises to utilize such strategies, perhaps to achieve your goals in work or negotiations, you will be better equipped to do so effectively. In this book, we explore destructive toxic techniques that fall under the category of schizophrenogenic patterns or schizophrenogenic communication. Destructive communication. The attack is aimed at undermining the target's sense of self and value. The following outlines the goals, methods, and forms of these attacks. The first goal is to make you feel like you have nothing and that you're a nobody. This seeks to undermine your self-worth and instill a sense of inadequacy. The second goal involves dismissing your activities. What are you even doing? This belittles your interests, suggesting they lack significance. Next, the attack may question your competence. Have you ever been taught anything? Do you even have any skills? Such questions challenge your abilities and knowledge. Another goal is to devalue what matters to you. Everything you care about is meaningless. This assertion implies that your values are not worthy of consideration. Lastly, the attack targets your social identity with statements like, "You're just another loser, just like everyone else," suggesting that you belong to a group lacking value or achievement. The methods used in these attacks can be categorized into several forms. Shaming is prevalent with statements like, "You're not who you should be," "You're not okay," "Not enough." Guilt is another method, with phrases that imply you are at fault. "You've made mistakes and caused harm." "You deserve punishment and need to earn forgiveness." Responsibility is also imposed. "You owe this to me." "You've wasted life." "You now owe me a debt for your existence." There's a blatant violation of personal boundaries as well, where the attacker does things to you that you wouldn't want anyone to do. Evaluation and devaluation manifest through unfavorable comparisons, making you feel inadequate. The forms of these attacks can be quite direct. You may hear accusations such as, "You're not good enough," "You're to blame," or "You must change." There are also questions that imply failure. "Why haven't you learned this yet?" Assumptions and interpretations are another tactic used to place blame, such as suggesting, "It's because you were unloved," or "You must have been deceived." Comments on behavior can take the form of gaslighting with phrases like, "You're acting strange lately," or "Did you forget to take your pills?" Lastly, the attacker may question your emotions. "Why are you so angry?" or "What's wrong with you?" Overall, if we effectively package our communication, the individual becomes poisoned by it, experiencing the negative effects I've described. This toxic influence can infiltrate their thoughts and emotions, leading to a cycle of self-doubt, guilt, and inadequacy. If I wrap my messages in a socially acceptable package, presenting them with a facade of goodwill, like saying, "I'm so happy to see you, you're wonderful," I create an impression of positive intent. This makes you more receptive to what I have to say, as your ears naturally perk up in response. Why do some people seek to destroy human values? For instance, individuals like narcissists, psychopaths, or those with borderline personality disorder may engage in such destructive behaviors. Narcissists often exhibit self-centeredness, disregarding the needs and feelings of others, while psychopaths may manipulate and exploit without remorse. Those with histrionic traits may seek attention in ways that can undermine the emotional well-being of those around them. Additionally, individuals with a fragmented sense of self might have this destructive communication style ingrained in their emotional makeup. This can be either conscious or unconscious. Some people may not even realize the impact of their actions on others. Interestingly, there are also those who are aware of their manipulative tendencies and intentionally train themselves to refine these skills. These individuals often view relationships as a means to an end, utilizing manipulation as a way to exert control or gain validation. In a professional context, there are companies that operate under totalitarian or paranoid management styles. Within these organizations, we can identify three types of leaders: motive driven, epileptoids, and paranoids. That motive driven leaders create a family like environment, fostering a sense of belonging and support. Epileptoid leaders, on the other hand, manage in a military style, emphasizing discipline and hierarchy. Lastly, paranoid leaders run their companies like cults, necessitating a unique approach to control and influence their employees that transform a workplace into a paranoid, cult-like environment. The leader must first effectively recruit individuals. This involves hooking them into a dependency relationship, undermining their self-worth, and isolating them from other social connections. The goal is to dismantle their internal support systems and values, replacing them with the leader's ideology. By creating an environment devoid of external influences, the paranoid leader establishes a fertile ground for their beliefs to take root. This manipulation ensures that the employees feel completely dependent on the leader, viewing them as the sole source of guidance and validation. In this scenario, only those who are wholly loyal or vassals can work alongside the paranoid leader, reinforcing their control and maintaining a tight-knit, insular community. For a person to feel good about themselves, be confident, protect their personal boundaries, set goals, and achieve them, they must first be whole and integrated, without inner conflicts or fragmentation. It's essential for them to have a positive self-relationship, to love and accept themselves as they are. This self-acceptance lays the groundwork for a healthy self-esteem, where the individual prioritizes their own well-being. I am number one. Only then, if I choose, can I take care of others. Moreover, having reliable psychological support is crucial for finding the strength to uphold personal boundaries and advocate for oneself. However, navigating these dynamics can be challenging, especially since many people operate in toxic environments. In some contexts, where toxicity is pervasive, the absence of these skills can severely hinder negotiations and interactions that are in such environments. Individuals who lack self-awareness and the ability to maintain their boundaries are often at a disadvantage. Without a solid foundation of self-worth and assertiveness, they may struggle to defend themselves or achieve their goals, leaving them vulnerable to manipulation and negativity. In contexts where significant amounts of money are involved, where power dynamics come into play, or where clinical pathology exists, lacking essential skills can lead to severe consequences. Essentially, you may be eaten alive. One of the most fascinating character types that embodies these manipulative techniques is the so-called perverse narcissist. These individuals possess a narcissistic personality structure and often present themselves as prosocial, meaning they engage with others not out of genuine connection, but as a means to sustain themselves. They require other people as a source of nourishment, relying on them to uphold their self-image and feed their ego. Perverse narcissists are particularly skilled at revealing, recruiting, and isolating others. They tend to target the most vital, successful, and vibrant individuals, viewing them as prime prey. For them, this is akin to a royal hunt, as they seek out those who possess energy and life force, which they can then drain to bolster their own sense of self. That if I recognize that another person is a narcissist or that they are using destructive techniques against me, it's important to understand that we are not dealing with NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Instead, we are facing outright rudeness, blatant hostility, and crude manipulations, including devaluation and other harmful tactics. What truly harms us is not just the actions themselves, but our failure to recognize them for what they are. It is the inability to see these destructive behaviors that can lead to emotional and psychological distress. The essence of this book is precisely to help you identify, see, and understand these manipulative dynamics. When we talk specifically about narcissistic pathology, the impact can be profound, as it often feels as if the narcissist is assuming the role of a caregiver, much like a mother figure, regardless of their actual gender. This dynamic can be particularly painful because it deeply affects our inner child, the vulnerable part of ourselves that longs for acceptance and love. The narcissist's manipulation can reach right into our emotional core, targeting our feelings and sensitivities. To effectively reach our inner child, they may employ an incredibly powerful and overwhelming strategy to destabilize us. This involves various forms of transference and highlighting our perceived weaknesses, while simultaneously showering us with exceptional attention and idealization. Statements like, "You're not like everyone else," or "Only with you do I feel alive," can create a false sense of intimacy and uniqueness. They may imply that our connection is extraordinary, marking a significant before and after in our lives. Such tactics can lead to an intense emotional bond that makes it difficult to see the manipulation at play. By idealizing us and creating an illusion of depth in the relationship, narcissists exploit our need for validation and affection, leaving us feeling both captivated and ultimately vulnerable. Let's touch a bit on narcissists. For a child to grow into a well rounded adult, they need to understand who they are, maintain a positive self image, accept themselves as they are, and rely on self love and self care. This requires that during childhood, they are filled with unconditional love, attention, support, and nurturing relationships from parents or caregivers that as a young child. It is crucial to feel that parents are present, that they genuinely want to be with them, that they engage in play, and that they offer affirmations like, "You're doing so well. I love you. You're wonderful." When a child experiences encouragement after small successes or is comforted after failures, being told, "It's okay. Let's try again." These reflections contribute to forming a healthy personality. Through these positive interactions, the child learns that they are valued and loved simply for being themselves, regardless of their mistakes or mischief. They come to a fundamental realization: I exist, I am good, I am worthy. This core belief fosters a strong foundation for their identity. What happens in the case of narcissists? How does narcissistic trauma occur? The first scenario involves absent, cold, or emotionally closed parents, where the child receives no signals of affection or validation. This leads the child to think, "Well, I must not be good enough for them to want to be around me." As a result, they feel compelled to seek out ways to ensure their survival, ways to feel that someone cares about them. They find themselves striving to obtain reflections of love and attention. This process shapes an image of who they believe they must pretend to be in order to have others, even their closest relatives, be present in their lives. Such a child creates an identity, whether grandiose or not, that they think will attract others. This identity might even turn into a vengeful, sadistic, or retaliatory persona. The second question then arises: what trajectory will their pathology take? The second scenario involves a child being filled with reflections, but these reflections are inadequate and grandiose. The child is expected to be number one, to earn a doctorate, to have 4 higher education degrees, and to achieve incredible feats from a very young age, even as early as kindergarten. If the child makes any mistakes, if they stumble or fail to meet these high standards, they are made to feel like they are not worthy. "If you're not perfect, then you're not our child. You're a disgrace," and so on. This kind of rejection deeply traumatizes the child. They internalize the belief that they are not needed as they are, that they are bad. They conclude that they are so inadequate that even their closest family members reject them. Consequently, the child develops a false self, a facade they believe they must maintain to protect themselves. This scenario often leads to the formation of grandiose narcissism. The child learns that to survive, they must embody greatness. They must always be number one, regardless of the circumstances. As a result, they become intolerant of criticism and demand perfection from themselves. If the grandiose narcissist seeks relationships, because like everyone else, they need connections, they will choose partners on whom they can project all their flaws, pain, guilt, and shame. For example, a grandiose narcissist may find a partner and, if anything goes wrong in the relationship, they will place all the blame on that partner. It's your fault we have no money. It's because of you that things went wrong, and so forth. This defensive mechanism allows the narcissist to deflect responsibility onto their partner. They may not understand who they are, so they rely on their partner to provide them with the grandiose validation they crave. I don't know who I really am, and I can't rely on myself, so I create an external protective image. I need something to sustain this image, and for that, I need other people, you. I manipulate you to give me the feedback that aligns with the image I've created. God forbid you see me for who I truly am. You'll be destroyed, devalued, manipulated, and consumed. You become a witness to my imperfections, and no narcissist will tolerate that. Narcissists have an unclosed gestalt, which is why they can't forgive. If someone hurts me, they violate my belief in my divine nature. That person must be destroyed as a witness. Narcissists don't know how to forgive. There are no legal grounds. He will just consume everything without reason, logic, or any sense of healthy understanding. This isn't about negotiations, and the manipulative tactics we are discussing will seem like mere sandbox games in comparison. Hysterical is a psychotype, while narcissist is a pathology. The hysterical personality type finds pleasure in self-presentation. I thrive on self-presentation. I feel happy when I am the center of attention, when I am number one, when I make an impact, and when I receive feedback. In contrast, narcissistic traits reflect dependency. I will fall into my personal hell if I don't receive that validation. Do you feel the difference? I either enjoy this or I will perish without it. When we talk about personality types, we discuss behavioral strategies, basic imprints, and foundational emotions, how I react to problems and how I solve them. So, what's the simplest way to determine a personality type? Create problems for a person and observe how they resolve them. An emotional person will build relationships, while a narcissistic one will attack, destroy, and so on. The question of who does what is not straightforward. It can stem from the structure of a personality or from non-clinical pathologies. It may also be related to professional skills and competencies, without which one might find themselves at a disadvantage. It's nothing personal, just business, and sometimes they coincide. That IT may also result from internal issues, neuroses, psychoses, whims, and so forth. After experiencing trauma, this might be the only way I know how to establish relationships. I feel anxiety when someone does not comply, or when a person has too much autonomy how to respond without violence and conflicts. If your goals and plans do not include resistance, overcoming opposition, or engaging in conflict, there is a model of soft power. This approach consists of 3 steps on how to achieve more with less effort, without conflicts. Point 3 phases. 1. Self-absorb. Allow the other person to make mistakes without resistance. 2. Fail. Seize the initiative and establish dominance. Prompt the person to respond. Encourage them to think critically. Provoke action. Control the conversation's territory. Manage the timing of the discussion. Regulate the dialogue as needed. 3. Disperse. Utilize your strategy based on your goals and requirements. Adjust your actions according to what you need. How to open a person up. We have methods of influence, ways to make a person feel bad, to destroy their self-esteem, to instill feelings of disgust towards themselves, shame, guilt, and to engage in self-suppression and self-denigration. This leads them to believe they are worthless, that they are nothing, being labeled as bad, being told they're not good enough, that they look a certain way, or that they are to blame. Comparisons seep in, affecting their internal state that if we can adapt to a person, if we know how to open them up and create trust, then the information we convey can penetrate their inner world. This involves penetration and provocation of influence, like a flick at their personal boundaries. Once we establish that connection, they will respond accordingly, remembering how to strike. We aim for the core of a person's identity, questioning how they see themselves. Do you really consider yourself a man? Do you truly see yourself as wealthy? Are you really a woman? Who told you that? Perhaps you've been deceived. The goal is to make a person feel negatively about themselves. This attack targets their inner child and their sense of security. We undermine everything they rely on. You have nothing. Everything you do is a complete failure. You don't possess any skills. All your values, your worldview, have been imposed upon you. You've been misled and brainwashed, splitting the person into parts. I can see that part of you wants this while another part resists. I can see how you're genuinely afraid of what you're discussing with such enthusiasm. Stop being afraid. Calm down. Everything will be all right. And so on. How to see through a person, their values, weaknesses, needs, pain, and fears to penetrate their being that a private instance of abuse is what is referred to as schizophrenogenic patterns. What is the essence of this? Schizophrenogenic, derived from the word schizoidization, refers to the splitting of personality. In fact, all these patterns, all these techniques reproduce symptoms of schizophrenia, which include positive and negative hallucinations, apathy, and helplessness. Overall, the goal of this impact can be defined by the acronym HPID. H, the first letter, stands for helplessness. This is the state of feeling that I cannot manage on my own. I am unable to cope. The second letter, P, stands for powerlessness, meaning I have no resources, no strength. It feels hopeless and impossible. I stands for insignificance. I may have the strength and ability, but I feel unworthy. I am too insignificant. Finally, D stands for dependence. It doesn't matter what I want. I must serve others' interests. I must achieve others' goals. I must satisfy others' interests and needs. If we define the purpose of such impact, it is precisely to create a victim, to turn someone into meat, into a follower, into service personnel. This is what the impact on our cognitive functions leads to, what we become when we are split, suppressed, overloaded, and so on. How can this be accomplished? We have the combat aspect of the attack, along with our needs, goals, fears, transfers, and so on. The question for you is how to use the combat aspect to break a person down. We have rudeness, we have devaluation, we have shaming, we have the destruction of personality and psychological supports. What do we need to do with this information, this message, and this communication for the poison to penetrate the individual?